So today is officially 18 months since I've been in the hospital, and before that I was in the hospital 3 times in 14 months, so I have gotten better at staying out of the hospital for sure. But I'm definitely still struggling right now. Yesterday and the day before, I didn't have to take any Seroquel during the day. I took 2 micronutrients twice, but at night I'm needing to take 3 Seroquel and 900 milligrams of lithium and 50 milligrams of trazadone. And I still feel kind of shaky when I sleep. Don't feel completely safe. And I've been reaching out to the universe about holotropic breathwork. Maybe I'll take a trip to do some of that. I think I need to get rid of some of this energy in my body. And I'm also looking at Airbnb places in case I want to go and have some peace and quiet. And I don't really have the money, so I'm not sure. Maybe I should have spent money on something else than an iPhone, but I am trying to design a different life, but it's hard because I don't have the energy to move much. And I also was looking at vans, and I found a van that has a high ceiling that is kind of a junker, but it might be fun to fix up. But I don't think I'd have anywhere to park it, is the problem. So yeah, I really don't know, but I feel like I've gone from feeling like, oh, I got my 25 years back, to hopefully I can make it to the next day, and on medications again, so not having my 25 years back. So that contributes to this because I've failed with that mission. And also I'm seeing that it might be because I have a totally different mission, or maybe I'm not really meant to make it. I don't know. I feel like I need to do something to get rid of this program in my body that seems to want me to end my life. And yeah, I'm not sure. I feel like going on a bit of a trip, but then if I go and then come back, that is a recipe for a big so-called episode. I think this needs a different approach altogether. I feel very alone with this, because I've been pretending I'm okay-ish, but not, and Not sure. My plan maybe, and I probably won't do any of this, but in my mind at least, which gives me a little bit of hope, is to go stay somewhere closer to people that I know, feel a bit better, go to the island, maybe do holotropic breathwork, and I see my psychiatrist tomorrow. I might ask about taking some antidepressant, if it might help me taper off the antipsychotic, because I don't like to be on antipsychotics for too long if possible. And I feel like it's morphed more into a depression, and I was on Zoloft for 3.5 years, and I did pretty well on it. My brain has actually been feeling kind of grateful for these medications, which is a stark contrast to how I was before. I'm seeing how they might buy me time to figure out a life that I want to live. And that's the thing, I feel like now it's more imperative to design the life I want to live at any cost. So then the business could be important. It's like, oh my gosh, there's just so much to do. I wish I had a co-creator. And I found a guy who does custom camper vans. It'd be cool to fix up this van, though it probably needs a new engine and stuff, which makes it maybe not worth it, but I also got this book yesterday. Tiny Buddhas, 365 Tiny Love Challenges. And it has a lot of different exercises about different things in life, and maybe I'll go through that or something. I feel like I need to find some kind of inner peace now. I had it, but it's gone. I think I'm back to the beginning. And that's part of what happens in this process, is when one gets to a peak state, the floor drops out from underneath and one has to start again. There's no real consistency, or then the brain sees more that needs to heal and be figured out in order to maintain that other state. And maybe there is no maintaining it, but this is kind of a cool little book. So yeah, I haven't been editing videos really, but the last one I did put in the screenshots from the Muse monitor app when I was using the Muse headband. And it definitely shows that my temporal lobes are overactive. And yesterday or the day before, I was looking at something that was showing that B6 is good for temporal lobes being overactive, and something else, maybe omega-3s. So I should maybe take some of that. I used to take P5P and zinc and primrose oil for pyrrole disorder. And then I stopped taking all those, and then I tried the micronutrients. And I think the micronutrients were a success to some level because it showed me deeper things, deeper truths that I've been ignoring somehow, and now I don't feel like I can ignore them. So this might shift what I do going forward, for sure. It will. Because in those states before, I've felt this extreme suffering of homelessness and women suffering and things. And so I don't think the root is mental health. So yeah, I'm going to take a different approach to possibly healing this if I make it, because I really don't know if I will. So yeah, there's lots there, and there's lots that I've been pondering, and there's lots I want to talk about. But right now, I'm trying to get through the day and stuff like that. So yeah, it's chaotic. Very, very challenging. I feel like I need to work and make some money and save up for a van or something and go on a trip. If that's a possibility, it might give me some hope. We'll see. But yeah, the going outside in the sun really helps. I'm going to try and get my sad light. And since I have nothing to lose at this point, this morning I feel some anxiety, and I took 2 hearty nutritionals, but I also took an extra magnesium citrate and calcium of some kind. And when I looked on that website about what helps the temporal lobes, it was folate, omega-3, and B6. And I happen to have folate, so I took folate. I do have P5P, which is the active form of B6 somewhere, but I have to find it. And I took some krill oil. So yeah, I'm going to try different vitamins during the day. See what happens. I just got some sushi. And I saw my psychiatrist, and I'm going to start taking sertraline again. And I'm hoping that will take away some of this head grinding feeling, this awfulness, and we'll see. Here I am going back on all the meds. Trying to plan out my new life, whatever that is, and thinking about doing holotropic breathwork, and I might plan a trip to do that and see if the Zoloft helps. I'm going to try and find my sad light, see if that helps. And next week on Monday there's a thing about CBT and psychosis. I'll probably go to that because it really applies to me. And then on Tuesday is the first intro day to the business class thing. And we'll see how that goes. Maybe I should focus on something else, like the trauma stuff, or do the business stuff and then the trauma stuff after. I don't know. I'm not sure. Gotta go in a different direction here. I want candy. That's my steering wheel blocking my face. Somebody has their lights on, shining in my face, so I can talk a little bit. And I feel like I can't be at home in my little room right now, so I took a drive to put air in one of my tires, and I got some candy, some chocolate, and some kombucha, and some pierogies. All the essentials. And kind of wondering if I'll be able to take the business class, because the business was supposed to be based on staying off meds and things like that, and that's not happening. So I'm wondering if I should scrap everything that I had planned for. Oh, there goes the lights. Oh, there they go. And start from zero. And then, well, what's my life going to be about this next while if I start from zero? I might go to a short stay shelter place to get some time in a setting away from the chaos of life. That sometimes helps to get my brain back together. And I might have access to an infrared sauna, so I might sit in that a lot. I might run on the treadmill. And today, there was even a little bit of snow on the ground. So yeah, it feels good just to be outside. And I do have lots to talk about regarding everything that happened and trying to figure it out. But I haven't really had the brain to sit down and do that. And it is so cold right now. It's only November 2nd and it's freezing cold. Unbelievably cold. And it probably feels colder because I'm not used to it. But it feels so cold. And I don't like that. I feel like I need to design that life I was talking about even more. I'm not sure how. So I'm gonna drink my kombucha. It felt good to get out and drive today. Maybe I'll go out and drive a little bit more. Started to plan my trip to the island for holotropic breathwork, perhaps. And see how that goes. At some point I'll talk about the little lifestyle design map that I did. For some reason, the meds make me want to eat candy. I'm feeling a little more energy today. I'm having these waves of excited energy that are totally out of context. But I'll take it. I'm doing some laundry because on Tuesday I'm going to go to the island for holotropic breathwork. Now this is a totally new approach, and I'm going to keep going until I find something that works, because what else am I going to do besides nearly kill myself every 8.5 months? So I have about 8 months now until this starts again. So holotropic breathwork, I just listened to a talk by Stan Groff on the Psychology and Spirituality Summit that's going on right now, and it was really good. I took some notes, and I'm not sure why I've been ignoring that, because everything that he talked about is a lot of what I experience and have experienced, especially in the past. Especially the first time around. I was in a holotropic breathing state when it was interrupted by my mom, and then I was dragged to the hospital. So I wonder what would have happened if it would have been allowed to complete, if I would have been able to just lay there and breathe like that. So I'm going to do a session on Wednesday and Thursday and Saturday. And I have somewhere to stay, which is nice. So we'll see what that does. It'd be nice if it heals some stuff. Worst case scenario, it doesn't do anything and I'm out $1,000. Best case scenario, it heals some stuff, and then I can taper off some of these meds and maybe be on micronutrients or something like that for months before having to take meds again, or not. And maybe it'll do nothing. Maybe it'll really do something and I'll want to do more sessions at some point. So I'll talk about that along the way, because maybe it is helpful for other people. And about the micronutrients, I haven't had time to really get into much of anything yet about how they didn't work or blah blah blah. One thing I remember reading on the website is that they work for the people especially that have the MTHFR, single nucleotide polymorphism. And I don't have that. And it has to do with DNA, which I got my DNA tested through 23andme.com. And then I put the DNA into a couple different website things in order to get my methylation profile and my SNP profile, which are the single nucleotide polymorphisms. So I can't remember if I shared that before, probably not, except in the very beginning I might have talked about it. So yeah, I'll show you that I don't have that SNP. And I just check my brain with my Muse headband because I'm feeling not as head grindy and not as awful. So I wanted to check that. And when I compare to Wednesday, November 1st, my brain looks a lot happier, which is good. And I'll show you those comparisons. So today, I didn't take a Zoloft. I think I'm going to not take it until after the holotropic breathwork, and I took a zinc. That's the only thing I've taken today. Sort of experimenting with the zinc and B6 thing, but I need to find my B6. It's packed away somewhere. And then I'll try that. And I'm going to probably use the Muse to see what my brain is like before and after these breathwork sessions, to see if there's any difference. Maybe even during, if the person is open to it. And I could bring my heart rate monitor too, because I do like to make experiments out of these things. And I did a really long experiment with the micronutrients, and we'll see what's going to happen now. It's snowing outside, and I'm also noticing that my mouth looks different on the meds. It's kind of like a sad mouth. Maybe not, but I can kind of tell. And I was watching a couple of my videos, or listening to them, and they had picture thumbnails, and I was noticing how, as I tapered off the meds, I looked kind of better and better as time went on, and now I'm sort of back to this energy of being on the meds. And I tried to draw a new map of what life might be about. A new lifestyle design from what I was up to before, which was feeling like I was invincible on micronutrients and life would keep going along in that wonderful way. But the 8.5-month cycle of having some kind of so-called relapse is way more potent. So from that, I have to figure out now what is next to explore, now that I'm feeling a little bit better. I still have that pressure on my head, and I'm taking 3 50 milligram Seroquel and 50 plus half of a 25 of trazadone and 300 milligrams of lithium. And I'm kind of hoping by exploring this holotropic breathwork thing that maybe I'll be able to taper off meds again, because I think that I'd be somewhat safe for 8 months, but maybe not, so I might stay on the meds until I have a better situation, because during the rough times, it's easy to project things onto the people around me. And one of the benefits of the psych ward is that doesn't really happen so much. Everyone is in there in the same situation, but staying in scenario with family when really struggling isn't good, because a lot can be felt like they're to blame or I'm to blame. We're both, or trying to figure that out, and it's not fun. So yeah, we'll see what happens. It's a matter of exploring the holotropic breathwork, and it could be life-changing, but oftentimes I have something in mind that I think is going to be life-changing, like emotional CPR or things that I've talked about along the way, and usually explore them, and I kind of dabble, but I don't find something as a particular passion, and I think that's okay. I think I'm curious about learning about all these things, but not necessarily being trained in them. So I'm going for holotropic breathwork doesn't mean I'm going to want to be trained as a practitioner, but by exploring it, then maybe it'll be helpful. And I'm drinking coconut nog. So I guess I'll talk to myself about what I might be exploring in the next few months. I'm going to look for my B6, maybe start taking B6 with the zinc. And after this week of holotropic breathwork of 3 sessions, I might try the sertraline again, depending on how I'm feeling, which is Zoloft. And I need to find my sad light, because these are things that I've experimented with. I did the experiment outside where I had the Muse headband on and the Muse monitor app, and I was earthing, and that didn't do as much as standing in the sun. So when I was standing in the sun, my brain definitely responded by calming down. The waves weren't like, they were more like in both temporal lobes as well as the right front one. And so that is a great way to do biofeedback, like brain feedback, to see what the brain is doing. So yeah, so keep that. I think I need to write that on here. Muse monitor app. And at some point, I'd like to graph the bits of data that I did collect. I recorded some of my brain waves when I was in extremely stressed out states, and they're files in my Dropbox. I need to know and learn how to graph them, which requires Excel for Mac. So I need to buy that and then figure out how to graph that, which would take some time. But I watched a video by Jason Silva talking about find your passion, and I do kind of like this Muse headband for that stuff, and like using it to map what works for me and what doesn't work for me in terms of what's going on in my brain. And I might have access to an infrared sauna soon, so I kind of want to spend a lot of time in that and just see if it can get some of this toxic energy out of my tissues. So that'll be cool. And another thing that I can try to do is I did buy the Dead Mouse class, master class, and I didn't really watch all the videos yet, so I can do that. And at some point go through that newmap.info site, those super creative people, and drive around and look for a place that I might want to live. I'm going to the CBT for psychosis workshop on Monday, and that was the last day I was supposed to dabble in mental health. But I wouldn't even go, but it's quite relevant to what I experience. And I kind of would like to go to both days, but the Tuesday group, I have the business info class. So that will give me a pretty good idea about if I would want to do that. Because if I don't want to do that course, I could try to stay on the island longer. I'm going to go to the island Tuesday afternoon and stay for about a week-ish. Do 3 sessions at least of the holotropic breathwork. And I could also work on writing a book or something. And had I continued on this trajectory, I would probably want to share my journey in February, but now that the trajectory's changed, I went through a psycho-spiritual death and rebirth, as I learned from Dr. Stan Groff in that talk that I was listening to. And I have quite a few of his books. I have The Stormy Search for the Self. I have When the Impossible Happens, and Spiritual Emergence, or Emergency. And I haven't read all of them yet. And all my books are packed away, so I can't even explore them right now. But I kind of resisted the spiritual aspect of all of this. I thought it was an abstraction away from the actual, as a compensation for something. But I think that's something I'm going to have to go into, because I don't know. I think I had some really insightful states even in this process that I've been going through with myself, but I need to go into the darkness, into the shadow, into the past, because I think that's part of what leads me to spring back. But there could be a lot of reasons, and maybe it's beyond reason. Reason is sort of this linear thing, yet this whole process is showing me that my life isn't even linear. I can get to this version of myself that I like, I guess you could say, and then I get snapped back into the past and trauma and awfulness and contemplating having an evil side in a way. And in daily life, I don't necessarily resist that. It's just not really operating, but it's there. It's there when I'm unaware. I stopped drinking because it makes me unconscious, and weird situations get created. So it's not good. But anyways, I'll go into that later. So holotropic breath work, there's something called somatic experiencing that might be good, some kind of transpersonal therapy, and the holotropic breath work is a transpersonal thing. So that's good, because there are transpersonal things I would like to deal with, like past lives and things like that. And I could also work with Sean Blackwell in holotropic breathwork at some point if I like the modality, if it works for me. And perhaps this person that's helping me out with that is really great, and then that's awesome because I have that resource pretty close by. And maybe do a podcast or continue with the blog. I'm not really the greatest at blogging. Yoga, ice skating, tennis one day, and maybe go to church and see about that, because there's this like Christian thing that happens in some of these states, and create the Dream Center, of course. and then read what I created on Dropbox paper, and maybe buy a new Mac laptop and edit my videos. I think, considering what's happened, I need to edit them a little bit, or put a big disclaimer about what's happening now. And also perhaps use Airbnb to be around a little bit more. Try to create a song, like a good song somehow. And so I'm going to do the holotropic breathwork, and also the day for the business thing, see if I want to do that. And so next week will be a big determiner of how it's going to go these next few months, because if the business class is really interesting, then I'll just go with that, and I'll be quite busy working on that stuff as long as my brain cooperates. And I have lots of different things written down that I want to talk about at some point. And then, so after the business class, if I do it, then I want to explore getting a van or something, and then traveling around. I still want to do that. I want to be free. And that's the part that's important to show, I think, is living as a bipolar person would design for oneself. So I was at home, and earlier today I did that muse check of my brain because I did feel calm. And sure enough, my brain waves were calm. And then I was on my computer, and then all of a sudden that grinding, painful, active brain feeling was there. It started up. It feels like it's like a circle, like grrr, my head just felt like it was grinding. So I put on the headband, and sure enough, it showed that my brain was all crazy active again. And I don't know what it was exactly, but I realized that a family member had just come home, and I don't want to blame family members or anything, but I just found it kind of interesting that I was fine, and then somebody comes home and my brain just starts going grrr. Though there's a chance that it was from sitting on the computer, but I'm not sure. It could be that too, because I started to read the document I made about the synchroversity business thingamajig, so it could have been that too, which could be future stuff, and then the other part could be past stuff. I don't know. So I'll have to be aware and notice when it's not there, and then maybe when I'm by myself and calm, go on the computer to see if that's what starts it up, or if it is a certain family member. And I don't think it's a fault of theirs. I just feel like my brain's in this sensitive state where I kind of need to be by myself, but I'm not, or there's some kind of underlying thing there, and hopefully with the holotropic breath work I can resolve some of that. So I don't know if it's family, I don't know what it is exactly, but it was interesting that that's when it started exactly. But I also had just gotten on the computer, though I was on the computer the other day for a couple hours because I had to do a few things, and it wasn't most comfortable either. So I do know that being on the computer isn't the greatest in these states. It's too much information, too much possibility. So it easily could have been that. But I'm going to see for sure, somehow. And that's why I kind of like this Muse brain headband. And so what I did was I left, because I'm going to meet a friend for dinner, but I left earlier. And I drove and then put the headband on again. And it showed that the right side of my brain had calmed down on the AF point as well as the TP10. But on the left brain, the point hadn't quite calmed down. So maybe that's because I'm out and about and active and thinking like, where am I going to go? Blah, blah, blah. So interesting to see that, because earlier today, my brain was really calm and then it wasn't calm. So trying to find out what that's all about. And I was listening to Stan Groff's talk about holotropic states and things like that, and he mentioned set and setting for people doing psychedelics and things. And when I'm in a sort of psychedelic state, partly, which is calmed down by the medications, set and setting is important. And hospital set and setting isn't the greatest, but it's also, it has less stimulation and less familiar people for that time, which is nice. So if anything else, it doesn't feel like the process is completely stopped, but if anything else, I've learned a lot about going through this in non-hospital setting, but also not ideal setting. People not really understanding or not knowing to what extent it is bad. And I didn't really share that because I was trying to get through it, and I usually get through it quicker, at least I did in January, but being on the micronutrients, it went a lot longer and it was very painful, and I think that was good. I think I learned a lot, which is always good. But, you know, if I'm learning that I need to be by myself right now, I don't know what to do. Yeah. But I guess it would be good to know if certain people do affect me right now for whatever reason, because that way I'll know, okay, well, I better continue to medicate myself to get through it, to cope with it. And, you know, maybe it'll show that people like me shouldn't necessarily be around family, because I feel like bipolar states of consciousness, we're not this consistent self anymore. We're states of consciousness which varies each day, and that's hard for people like parents to understand, I think. And then it's translated as mood or attitude or so many different things, and I guess that's why people say, you know, don't stigmatize my illness, but I'd rather have ideal set and setting than have to medicate myself more. Or, you know, it could just be showing that I should be on the computer less, and I'd rather be outside in nature more. But the thing is it's damn cold and it's snowing, so it's challenging to do that. So yeah, that was weird. I don't know. It was pretty strong, so I really don't know what that was from exactly. And if it is from family, it just means that when I'm in a crisis, it's not good to be around family. It doesn't mean that that's how it always is. Yesterday, I realized that I actually have P5P here. Found it on one of my shelves. And I have hydroxy B12 and zinc. So I'm going to take these today during the day, see how I feel. And yeah, I did take 3 Seroquel last night and 3 lithium, so 900 milligrams, and 50 plus half of a 25 of trazadone. And I'm feeling kind of groggy today. So I'm going to try this zinc P5P hydroxy B12 based on pyrrole disorder and also the DNA test results that I was looking over, and I might talk more about them later. I was just at the CBT for psychosis workshop and it was really good, and I thought to stop by my old place and get some mugwort. And I'm getting it because years ago when I was in California, before all this craziness started, somebody came up to me and gave me some mugwort and said, "Put this under your pillow, you'll have nice dreams." And then I did, and when I laid my head down that night, I felt like I was going through a time warp. It was literally like, and then I opened my eyes and didn't go with it, though I laid down again. Same thing happened. Crazy movie theater type, watching a movie type time warp thing. And so then I took the mugwort and put it on the window ledge and not under my pillow. So I might try and complete that portal, see if I can go through some kind of crazy time warp tonight. I think I need it. And the day today was really good because it encouraged clinicians to engage people about psychosis instead of the current thinking in the mainstream model of not engaging it as to not encourage it or anything. But I'm going to go into engaging with it more so by doing the holotropic breathwork, and I'm leaving for that tomorrow, and then I'll have a session on Wednesday, Thursday, and Saturday just to see if that kind of approach might help. And I really don't know if it will. I'm thinking that if it doesn't, then I might have to get used to this happening every 8.5 months, this psycho-spiritual rebirth, and perhaps plan accordingly or have my life designed so I can go through that, because now it seems like I've gotten to the point where I don't need to go to the hospital to get through it. So we'll see about that. And yeah, there's lots I think I want to talk about. Maybe I'll talk about, well, of course I'll talk about how these holotropic breathwork sessions go. Yeah, but I do need to go home and pack, and I could talk about some of the stuff from today, but I do think it's great. The only thing I wonder about is it seems to still negate the fact that there could be kind of a magical world. So part of the paradigm of mental health seems to be to convince people that there is no magical world, there are no special messages, life is mundane, mediocre, and then people should go about life living in those ways. When I think there's a new paradigm emerging, and then people convince us of how it's not true. Though my process has gotten kind of weird. I don't know how to explain it, but I think I'm going to go into it more so. I don't know what else to do. It's what I've been doing. Yeah. We'll see what happens. I have a bit of a kombucha obsession right now, so I stopped and got a kombucha as a bit of a treat and a reward for making it out all day to this workshop when I'm not feeling the greatest. Yesterday at the CBT and psychosis workshop, Ron Unger shared a story that was an interesting tidbit, at least for me. He was sharing somebody saying, "Oh, I have an implant in my brain," and then a worker being curious enough to ask, "Well, what makes you think that?" And then the person showed, I guess, an MRI scan or something that looked like there was something there with two little tubes, one on each end, and then they investigated and found out that was a pineal body. So I was looking into that a little bit, just looking at pictures online, and there's some people that have an enlarged pineal gland. And that's supposed to be sort of the spiritual center in the brain, and it produces DMT, apparently. So maybe people who are experiencing these states of consciousness have a larger pineal gland, who knows? So when I can eventually get to my stuff, I might try to look for my capsules, because I might be able to put that haritaki powder in there in order to cleanse the pineal gland without throwing up. So I might try that. I might get a little more creative with the things that I try, because I'm curious to find out. And I'm waiting to go into my business class today, and then after that I'm going to head to the ferry to go to the island, because tomorrow I'm going to try holotropic breathwork. And when I was falling asleep last night, I felt kind of scared. I could feel that state going on in the background. And the other day I was watching a couple bits of my videos along the way, and I found one where that bit of heart scariness started when I was in California. And it's interesting because I was describing that same thing where I'm falling asleep and I feel like I'm remote viewing, or I'm seeing all this different stuff from all over the place. So yeah, it's the same kind of thing that happens. And maybe it's something that doesn't have to be scary at all. So maybe by doing this holotropic breathwork, I'll learn more about that state and not be scared. So we'll see. And if this doesn't work, this holotropic breathwork, then I don't know what I'm going to do next. I might try to work out karma, or just live, or I really don't know. Or try Zoloft. There are different things to try. But another thing, I can't remember if I talked about this already, but I thought the CBT and psychosis thing was really good, but I also felt at the same time that, like, there is this world of magic and synchronicity. It's real. So usually with the CBT and psychosis, it seems like trying to convince us that those types of things aren't true, though they gave examples of more extreme versions, like aliens are going to land on the roof or something like that. But I think at some point in my dialogues with myself, I talked about how some of those are there's some other meaning to that. Like fear, if somebody's feeling that much fear, they could be feeling the level of fear equivalent to if an alien was going to land on the roof. And they also mentioned in the group something about the imagination, which I've never thought about before, because I don't really have much of an imagination, but how the imagination gets messed up. I'm not sure. I have to look into it. My brain isn't really as sharp right now. One thing about being back on lithium is that I have that post-nasal drip again. And I have to wipe my nose every 10 minutes. That was gone on the micronutrients. And the workshop I went to yesterday was a 2-day workshop, but I missed day 2, which is today. But it turns out there is an online course of both of them, so I can do day 2. So I'll probably do that when I get back. And there was one other thing I wanted to talk about. I don't remember. I remember the other thing I wanted to talk about, which is I felt so brain dead at my business course today. Super brain dead. And there's an assignment next week, and my brain is so slow. I can't think of anything. I can't remember anything, which is kind of how it goes. I want to set up a structure where I don't have to think or recall anything, but just be creative. I don't know what else to do. So hopefully I can do that in the business. So today is the day I do holotropic breathwork, and I'm a little bit nervous. I'm hoping it doesn't open up a can of psychotic worms, but I want to give it a try, at least. And last night, I kind of had to pee while falling asleep, and I didn't get up, and then I felt like I slept really lightly, and I was dreaming all night. And I had a dream about the holotropic breathwork, and that I showed up for it, and it was in an underground parkade, and all the parking stalls were really dirty, but they put down mats, like blankets or something, but then some people had exercise balls to put their feet up on, and then other people just had clear bags of garbage, like a big bag of like recycling or something like that, like paper products. And then I showed up last, and then I started doing the breathing, and then I had to go to the washroom, and I thought I almost went a little bit, and so I went to the washroom, and then there was some like poop in my underwear, and I was trying to clean it off and into the toilet, and it was yucky, and then I realized there was no door on the stall, and then that was weird, of course, and then I went back, and I don't really remember the rest. But yeah, I was in the dream realm last night for sure. And then I had another dream about this place. I don't know. Not sure, really. And I probably won't get to record any of the holotropic breath work, but I'll probably do some journaling afterwards, and I'll at least know if it worked, if it did something, if it did nothing, if it's something I want to do more of in the future, things like that. So that is cool. Yeah. And I got my Seroquel quetiapine. If things get a little bit too bonkers, I'll just pop some of those bad boys, and I'll be right back to dreary and drowsy. And last night I took 2 Seroquel. I didn't take 3. And that could have been another reason why I slept lighter. But I do want to get off this Seroquel at some point. Been on it for over 2 weeks. At least I'm not having to take any during the day. I've only had to do that once, probably in the last week. So, yeah. Good luck. All right, so holotropic breathwork, day 1, which was yesterday. I didn't get a chance to talk to myself. It's hard to say for sure, but I think it was kind of life-altering. The night before, I took 2 Seroquel to fall asleep with the same amount of lithium and trazadone, and then last night, I took 1.5 Seroquel. So it seems like my body is allowing me to take less Seroquel, which is good because I find Seroquel makes my brain really, really, really slow. And when I was at the info session of the business course, I couldn't think of anything. And I was doing these worksheets, and I was just kind of making stuff up to look like I was doing something. But some of it was true, but it just wasn't really deeply thought out. And I'm not really the greatest at thinking and recalling and remembering. I'm better at creating, I think. So, yeah. But the breath work was really cool. I really liked it, but it's hard work to do all that breathing. So I'm supposed to go today, but I was just talking to the facilitator, and this morning I had a splitting headache, just so painful in here, and I tried a cold cloth. I drink water. I drink a little bit of coffee because I didn't have any yesterday. I had some Advil. I had some crackers. And then I was sitting there and it was so painful. And then it felt like I was going to throw up. So I'm not one to throw up at all. And I went to the washroom and I threw up all the little cracker and bit of coffee and water and everything else. And the facilitator said that that could happen, that I could get a headache, that I could feel nauseous and things like that. And that's exactly what happened. And it woke me up kind of early. And yeah, so I was just talking to the facilitator about whether or not I should do a session today. We're kind of leaning towards no, but we didn't get to talk about all of it. And I would kind of lean towards no just because I feel tired. I didn't have the best sleep. I was awake in the morning for quite a while before I got up, and I had that headache, and I couldn't go back to sleep because the headache hurt way too much. And I don't get headaches, so it was really painful, and it's still lingering a little bit. But I take all of this as a good sign that the session had some kind of effect and my body's getting rid of certain energies or something like that. So it's kind of cool. It is music, kind of like psychedelic, upbeat, house, tribally, ethnic type music, and it's enjoyable. I like that kind of music. So part of me was laying there smiling, and I laid there with a blanket and pillow and an eye mask, and then I was doing the breathing, which was kind of how I described, really quick in and out all the way. And I was doing it for quite a while, and then I was kind of thinking, this isn't doing anything, or I don't know if this is doing anything, because I was breathing for quite a while. And then so I think I stopped breathing, and then there was this really pronounced but like really quick energetic vibration or tremor in my body, like in my spine area. And I've been feeling this tremor. This is what I've been talking about with this energy moving in circles that feels like it's grinding in my energy field. But it was like really quick and very obvious and quite energetic. And that vibration kept going on while there was this process going on in consciousness. And it started with energy sort of at the lower part of my body, and there was like stuff coming up related to that, and then stuff related to some trauma and showing me stuff. And the facilitator said 1 tear shed in an altered state of consciousness is more powerful than, say, like 1,000 tears in regular state. And that's not an exact number or correlation or anything, but just illustrating the point that what happens in an altered state of consciousness is more powerful because the psyche is doing whatever it does. So it's not about analyzing it or anything, because it's not really a linear analytical thing that's devoted to the rest of the time of our days in life. So it was cool. I didn't really see anything otherworldly or like see any images or anything, and I guess that's not really what was meant to happen for me. And maybe I'll talk a little bit more what happened, but it's hard to remember. But it was kind of cool because I was laying there and then I was feeling the vibration, and it was sort of telling me that once this process was over, that would be healed. And so then I started to like smile, and then there's some emotions that came up around certain events, and then I was like, I cried a tear, and then I was smiling again because I was like, wow, this process is cool. And then I was like, I started crying for like 30 seconds maybe. And then this was something that was interesting, was at the end of it, at the end of that process that happened when I stopped breathing that first time, it probably went on for, I don't know, I'm going to say 10 minutes. I'm not sure. And right at the very end of it, it said, and you're going to commit suicide. And it didn't scare me. I just opened my eyes and I was kind of laying there like, okay, am I going to commit suicide after this or something? And then I realized, I can't remember if I realized after, I think I realized when I went into the second event that that's sort of what happens when I get to sort of like the peak of whatever in a certain 8.5 month period of time, and then everything drops out. So it's like peak of wonderfulness, and then there's a process that happens that ends in me feeling like I might end my life. So it wasn't anything new. So then I wasn't scared of it because I saw it as the end of that process, because that's what happens at the end of this process that I experience anyway. So I also didn't believe it because it said you're going to commit suicide, and that's not language that I use. It was something else. And then when I went into the next one after breathing again, I remember it said that I'm going to die at the age of 74. And I don't know if that's true, but I thought, well, that's not bad. That's a pretty decent length of life. And who knows if it's true or anything, because in so-called psychosis, the mind sort of says certain things like this is going to happen, or that might happen, or this, blah, 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 possibilities. And who knows what is true. I sort of stopped believing all of that. And that's another reason why when it said, oh, you're going to commit suicide. And also it didn't necessarily mean now, because it was something that was coming up in mind. Like maybe that was coming up in order to heal that sort of thought or meme that I sometimes experience. And yeah, and I'll try to remember more of what happened. It wasn't a ton. Part of it, I was sort of just laying there, enjoying the altered state of consciousness. And I opened my eyes one time and I looked, and there was light through the eye mask, and I was sort of enjoying the dance of light, and it looked kind of 3D, like it was dancing to the music. It was kind of cool. And yeah. So I'm just waiting for her to call back. I wish I had more to report about it. But it was pretty powerful, because I was sort of breathing and thinking, I'm not sure if this is working. And then I stopped breathing, and it's like, I was in this powerful state where I was like paralyzed, yet vibrating and processing all this psyche stuff that to me felt like exactly what I needed to process. And if I don't have a session today, I will have one on Saturday, and I could always come back another time and do it again. And like I said, I'm just kind of tired, so I don't want to spend all that money if I'm not completely up to it. So yeah, I'll end this for now, because I have stuff from the other day. And yeah, it's totally cool. Holotropic breathwork. I'll be more sold on it or not sold on it after next session. And that could be another reason why it's better not to do another session today, because if it doesn't go as good because I'm tired and I had a huge headache and I threw up and then I might think, well, this isn't the greatest. Whereas if I wait till Saturday, I might have a better experience. And as I'm talking, I feel like my throat is a little funny from throwing up, like that nastiness in the back. That might make it hard to breathe. And on Sunday, I was doing a little experiment with the Muse headband and doing a test to see when I was when the phone was sitting there and I wasn't touching the earthing mat, which is the first one, and then after that it was that I was touching the earthing mat, and then I think after that I put the phone on the earthing mat and touched it, and I did one where I was standing up, and I noticed that the left temporal lobe is more active when standing up, and then I was standing on the earthing mat, and I don't really remember which ones are which, unfortunately, so I have to go back and redo that. But I was also testing if I touch the metal part of this Schumann wave device that I got years and years ago. And that had an effect for sure. But again, I don't remember which one it is. So they're not that useful, but there was a definite effect with the Schumann device. And I don't even know if I took a screenshot of one of those because it increased the brain waves and it was hard to take a screenshot and hold on to that Schumann device at the same time. But I'm going to try another one at some point where I listen to some kind of brain waves and then see what happens on the Muse headband to see if those have some kind of effect. I brought the Muse headband with me for my trip because maybe I'll do some experiments. I don't know if I'll be able to take any videos while I'm doing the breath work, but I'll try and talk to myself after at some point. And I'm just hoping that it doesn't activate something that gets out of hand. If it does, I will be ready to take extra Seroquel to calm it down. But it'll be interesting, I think. I don't really know what to expect. I'm a little bit nervous about it. But it's time to try this. I've been thinking about it for a while. So I'm going to take a different approach, which is not so much the molecules and things like that. Though I'm thinking about getting N-acetylcysteine and coenzyme Q10 because CoQ10 is for the heart and the distress I feel is in the heart, and I feel this energy, this spinning energy that I got acquainted with when I was in California. It's there more like all the time and it really moves my body. I was standing there yesterday and the vortex was in sort of my sacral region and it was moving my body. I was standing there and it's quite a big circle. And I was thinking about how some people who are on long-term antipsychotics develop this sort of shuffle where they go on one leg to the other and one leg to the other. And I think that this moving energy might have something to do with that. There's no way I can really prove it, but it just came to mind that people are shifting their weight from side to side because there is this vortex of energy happening, and I don't know if it has something to do with Kundalini or what, but I've also felt it spinning right at the base of my body and also in my heart, and it started like grinding in my brain. Another weird thing is my car is sort of vibrating as if it is affected by this energy field. And I'm wondering if when this sensation of this energy field thing stops, if my car will stop feeling like it's out of alignment or something. I remember reading something about how what happens with our car is kind of what's happening with us. And that's been interesting over the couple of years since I've known that. So yeah, disjointed things. It's hard to put things together and it's hard to remember. And one thing I do remember is that I noticed in my videos, the few that I watched a bit of, that whenever I say I'm going to do something, like I'm going to practice this or do this every day, or I'm going to try and get good at this, I never do it. So I don't want to project any more patterns like that. I'm sort of wondering, and I'm still curious about living in a bipolar way, as in just getting up in the morning, getting ready, and living by synchronicity, just sort of wandering around and seeing what kind of life gets created by that. And instead of trying to fix this bipolar thing, start living according to how it would make me live. And I've talked about this before, but now that I've had this other crisis that's been pretty bad, really troubling, I see the necessity for that more. And I talked about lifestyle design and designing a life and then a trip, so I'm still kind of in alignment with wanting to see what happens with that. Out of, I don't know if it's desperation or necessity, I also calculated that the next crisis, if it's every 8 months, could be in the summertime, which never usually happens, so it probably would be beforehand. So I'll have to watch out for April, because I did spend the whole of April in the psych ward in 2016. So 2018, I'll have to watch out for that. I might not be able to stretch it to 8.5 months because of how it seems to fall apart. Not in the summertime. So, yeah. There's other things I might try. I might just try and switch to lithium orotate cold turkey. I don't know if that's a good idea or not. I'm still leaning towards staying on meds. Well, this situation, my living situation is the way it is. It's possible that the business course will help, or maybe I won't be inspired to do it. And it's possible that having access to an infrared sauna will be really good because it'll keep my body warm. And yeah. Da 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 da. I'm at the ferry now and I got a burrito. So I forgot to talk about how on Sunday I did coherence breathing for the first time in a while, and it was pretty hard to stay in coherence. And also I noticed that my heartbeat was quite squiggly. Usually it's nice and smooth, but yeah, it's definitely quite not steady right now. And another thing I might try is going to see a shaman of some kind, and I found one in the city I'm staying in. I'm not sure about different types of shamans and things like that, but this one at least is close by, and I'd like to meet up with one in person. So when I get back, I might try that. I'm gonna try some of these magical type things and then get on to the work of resolving things. And I do hope I make it through this bit of holotropic breathwork. I'm kind of nervous. I'm nervous that it'll open up the floodgates. And worst would be activating the suicide program. But I'm partly excited about it because when I was first taken to the hospital 6.5 years ago, I was in a holotropic breathing state. And I might have said this recently, but I forget because my memory just stinks. And that's one of the reasons why I'll say, oh, I'm going to do this and practice that, and I never do because I forget that I said that. So I was in a holotropic state, breathing very rhythmically. I don't even know what holotropic breathing is like from doing it with a practitioner, but I did just go into that state spontaneously years ago. It was rhythmic. It was like, but faster, a little bit faster, but it was same amount of time breathing in as breathing out. So I'll find out if that's the type of breathing pattern this practitioner has me do. And there is a chance that this could be life-changing or something that more people like me could utilize to get some form of relief. I know that Sean Blackwell has his own type of bipolar breath work, and he helps people, and sometimes it'll take a couple retreats. So I don't think 3 sessions is going to do the trick per se, but it'll give me an idea of whether it's something worth pursuing to resolve some of this quantum weirdness. And if it doesn't resolve the quantum weirdness, I might need to go into learning more about the quantum weirdness and maybe purposely trying to go into it instead of avoiding it. Perhaps the problem is avoiding it. Really not sure. But I keep on going. I keep on trying to discover. And over this last year, I've done mostly a lot of talking, just making stuff up. But now it's time to go back into some old facts.